realise I'm live now. We're having issues with the connection, and I think we're sorted here now. So. No, there's 12 o'clock. Right. So, Jamie Cotter, just let me know when we're ready to start. Very good. Happy days. Right. So, you've probably been watching us there for the last 10 minutes, freaking out, trying to get this thing set up. But, so, first of all, I want to say how much of an honour it is to be the first group to open up the Belfast Whisky Week. It's an amazing festival already. Everybody's been talking about it for a long time. There's been packages delivered all around the world, and we're absolutely delighted to be a part of it. It's absolutely fantastic. So we're so grateful. And Killowen Distillery is Ireland's smallest distillery. We set out with the ambition of being a true distillery, is what we call it. It's not a term that's taken off yet. We want to focus on integrity. We want integrity to be at our core right the way throughout everything that we do. So we focus massively on transparency. Sometimes that gets us into a bit of bother. Sometimes it doesn't as well. But really appreciate people who are on the journey with us, and we're hopefully going to influence the industry to move in the right direction as well, so that the Irish whisky industry can thrive as a whole. So Killowen Distillery was founded by myself, Liam Brogan, who's here with me as well, and Shane McCarthy, who's based in London at the moment, but although he's back and forth. And so three of us have set it up, and it's gone from strength to strength, one yard in the last few months. So we've been distilling now for a year and a half, and we've got some nice liquid in casks, and we've also got some lovely blended liquids that we toy around with in quite an experimental manner, hence the name of the tasting today. So Killowen Distillery's in the Mourne Mountains, in the heart of the Mourne Mountains, right on the slopes of Knockshee. It's a beautiful area. It's in a townland called Kilfegan, and Kilfegan's full of lore, music, history, and crack. And today we're lucky enough to have Danny McGreevy, who's the best piper this side of the Shannon. Probably both sides of the Shannon, actually. This side of the Cassie Water's right beside us here. So Danny's he's a fantastic piper, and he comes up and graces us with his music from time to time. And the uilleann pipes are actually my favourite instrument as well. I think they're fantastic. The sound is incredible, and they're so unique. And they're actually a UNESCO product as well of Ireland, and we're very lucky to have Danny on hand. And if anybody's lucky enough to get a tour of Killowen Distillery as well, Danny's usually there for group tours to play music. So I want to introduce Danny, and he's got a few tunes for us as well. So here we go.
Well, I'm delighted to be here, and I'm going to play a tune which is certainly appropriately named for where we are and the week that's in it, in Killowen Distillery in Belfast Whisky Week. And the tune is called The Humours of Whisky.
man, Danny. So, what's the humours of whiskey, yeah?
The humours of whiskey, we slept in.
Brilliant, very good. So, every time you get a tour up here, the group tours, once they open up again in the summer, that's not COVID related summer, Danny's going to be gracing people with the music, which is fantastic. So, yeah. So, first thing we're going to do today is obviously sample some whiskies. Now, we've got the lovely series of, oh, someone rang me there, the Bonnet Experimental series here as well. So, and as well as that, we've got some of our aging spirit. So we've got the Killowen Peated Potstill spirit as well in there, which is going to be our signature for the distillery in the future. And it's nice just to give you a snapshot of that at the moment to see how it's aging. So it's a very young one that we've offered up, this one. And it's just 6 months old, but the amount of influence that the cask has had in that in such a short period of time, it's fascinating. So just wondering if somebody could maybe write into the group there, just because with the madness of setting up the people putting out the deliveries, we just have our own samples in the distillery here. So the order, the first one, can somebody just let me know what the first one is, please, in the order sheet, just so that we're all on the right page. What drink number 1 is? You can get it, I don't know. And that's the way we set to them, but I just wanted to make sure.
Peated Potstill.
It's okay. Peated Potstill, it is, yeah. Right, so it's the same order that we have, which is great. So, has anybody tasted it yet? No cheaters? I know there's a few boxes came in through the door and I was very tempted to get them open. So, yeah. She's yours there, then. Thank you very much. Lovely stuff. So the influence with this whiskey, right? The idea behind this is that this is the reason why we set up Killowen Distillery. We wanted to make the whiskey that we wanted to drink, and this is the whiskey we wanted to drink. So we wanted to drink Potstill whiskey. We didn't want to drink Potstill whiskey that was influenced by a corruption of legislation, which is the GA. And we can't skew facts. Facts are just facts. We all need multinationals in the economy, but whenever they start to actually try to skew historical truths, things can get quite dangerous. So what we want to do is create Potstill whiskey the way it was made when Potstill was king, before the birth of Scotch, which is fantastic as well, and before the birth of a more modern Potstill whiskey, which is fantastic. But I think whenever you make Potstills, basically the way they were made for much longer than they are now, there's much more on offer in terms of flavour profiles and depth and character. So Potstill whiskey of old was thick, viscous, spicy stuff. Could be very well balanced as well. And this is what we're trying to achieve. And as well as that, we know now as well that Potstill whiskey was more peated than it was non-peated. Some of the most famous Potstill whiskies were made all around Ireland, particularly in County Down, for instance, in the old Cumber distillery. There was much broader ranges in the mash bill. The mash bills included a lot more oats, rye and wheats, 30% or more oats at times. And in this Potstill here, we've got up to 30% oats, rye and wheat. We've also got a lot of smoke grain in here as well. We try to smoke as much as we can, so we smoke as much oats as we can. We smoke even rye when we can. And we also use smoked barley in this as well. So we try to increase the smoke content. For us, that's not always consistent. So every batch is going to be different, which is fine. Every cask is going to be different, which is fine. I think a strive towards consistency is something that the massive companies have to worry about, and something that smaller companies should actually try to avoid. So we're going to pour a little bit of this out now. What do you think of the lovely bottles as well, created by Johnny, Studio Stereo? The whole branding, I think, is fantastic. Even the branded glasses are brilliant. I don't know if anybody's got one yet in the smaller boxes, but in some of the larger boxes, you get 2 of them. So on the nose, automatically, you're just getting an absolute space ball. You driving, aren't
Yeah.
you? Name's being responsible. But you can still nose, I'm sure. Danny have a nose or two. He's only driving down the lane. There's a massive sherry influence in this. So this was aged for 3 months in a sherry cask. And sherry's fantastic stuff, especially PX sherry, because, you know, it can really pull back. There's Keith McAlevey saying there's a very dodgy man behind me. Keith McAlevey was a school friend of ours, and he used to flush our heads down the toilet before he cleaned them out. Good stuff.
It seems like the peak is actually increasing the cask too.
Mm.
When you make straight up the sherry cask, you know, really works well. Peated whiskey.
It does, doesn't it? It doesn't go away. But whenever we put peated into some of the bourbon casks, for instance, the peat did tend to become a bit more weak.
Yeah.
But if you notice the percentage of that, right, that's 58%. The reason why is because we actually diluted it back before we sent it out. We thought there's a little bit. We just wanted people to taste it at 58%. We thought it was a good flavour point to start with. I know it's against the idea that everything we normally send out is at cask strength, but you have to remember this is young spirit. This hasn't been in the cask yet, so we wanted to just give a good starting point for everybody, make it palatable. And
6 months in PX so far.
6 months in a PX. This PX was actually cleaned out quite well before we put the whiskey in, but you still get that really, really rich flavour and really rich colour in there. You can see it's all about the mouthfeel as well. The oats in there are brilliant, and those oats, which have been overlooked for so long in Irish whiskey, provide so much texture and so much mouthfeel. And not just that, they also hold on to those spicy notes that you're getting from the unmalted barley. So that unmalted barley in here is creating a lot of pepper, a lot of those spicy notes, and the wheat gives a bit of that as well. But that tiny element of rye that you put in there as well, it just influences that spice all the more. So you're getting that Potstill spice. And you can see in these Potstills behind us that they're quite small and they're flame fed. So I don't want to repeat myself too much. A lot of people know that we're the only flame fed still in Ireland. So it's creating this Maillard reaction at the base of the still. So the amino acids and the sugars at the base of the still are charring together, and it's creating what's known as the Maillard reaction, which is it creates a quite like an earthy burnt note that the theory, the modern theory behind the Maillard reaction is that we've all evolved to love this over time. With human evolution, some of the first things to change are taste, and that's to encourage us to eat certain foods. We like sweet foods because over the years, unlike in modern times, we needed calories to survive, and we needed to, get as many calories in as possible. And sweetness is a good source of that. The other theory behind the Maillard reaction is whenever we learn to cook foods, our palates change very quickly so that we enjoy the flavour of cooked foods. Some of us crave burnt toast as well. Things like that, and that's we like barbecue, we like seared things. That's because when we learned to cook our foods lasted longer, we survived longer. There was a lot less food poisoning, a lot less nasty mornings in a ditch, and so that idea of just loving that burnt note, and we don't know what it is, so that's actually in there, feeding in there as well, and it just adds that other layer of complexity. So the difference between flame fed and non-flame fed, it's, to me personally, is the same as peated and non-peated. It's another layer of complexity in there, So,
I think somebody mentioned there that we're not getting a lot of peat because they're used to Islay peated whiskies. Like, I think there's a lot of Scotch whiskies have that medicinal peat note. It's more, it's different from like the influence we're getting and smoking our own stuff here. It's more like, I don't know if it's the Donegal turf or if it's because it's done on a small scale. Like maybe the Scotch way of peating it, and then I suppose with that, especially with the maritime influence being close to the sea, although we have that here, there's not a whole lot of that saltiness or salinity in the whiskey, but it's like a cleaner peat or a sweeter peat.
There is indeed, yeah. There's the peat that we use as well. It comes from Liam's family farm in Donegal, and it offers. You can compare it to peat from maybe the East Coast or more in the Midlands. We find it can be a lot more aromatic. It's a lot more mossy. It's lovely stuff. There's fruity notes even come out of it as well whenever you're smoking with it, and that then complements the spirit later on. There's also the oat, and I think because of the oat, it really holds back a lot of that flavour. And instead of getting an explosion of the peat as well, it's like a consistent, lasting peatness as well. And again, the power of oats is just fantastic. And we're really looking forward to seeing how this stuff works in a few years. Again, the casks that we're going to be releasing are going to be full on. So it's going to be a sherry bomb. People's palates, they might think that it's maybe a little bit overpowered by sherry, but for us, we think that's what Whiskey Bowl as well was about. I think it's about being full on. And you can tinker about with it at your own ease. You can add your own water to it. We're going to continue that integrity of Killowen bottlings now with our experimental series. So when we release something, they're going to be at cask strength. There's going to be no filtration. For the consumer at home, you can get a sieve. You can sieve it out if you want. You can put it through a muslin cloth, or you can add water to it. But that's up to the consumer, and everybody's got their own sweet spot. And I think whiskey is much more enjoyable whenever you're doing that yourself there and then, without it being diluted too much beforehand. And luckily, we're starting to see a lot more cask strength bottlings coming on, which is great. I'd love to interact with a few people here, because some, people who you see online and you meet them in person as well. You love to just have their opinions, just to see what they're thinking. So I'm going to wait for Niall to jump into the chat and tell me if I can unmute a few people just to see some thoughts. It'd be great. Mick Maguire's wetting himself when it's ready. Mick Maguire was one of the lucky few who managed to get a cask with us as well, with a lot of interest too. So yeah, good man, Mick. I think you were the last or second last cask to be filled there. But yeah, there was basically in this series as well, and in the director's cut, we've shown our full hand. Everything that we've got in the distillery, we've basically put it down here and let people experience it. Some of the stuff's very rare as well. Especially some of these bonded experimental series, they're only single casks, and they're not going to happen again. And so it's good to get people to taste them, But this for me is usually you finish with your absolute favourite, but we've started with our absolute favourite now because this is the best way to open the festival. I think this is the past of Irish whiskey, and we're not being nostalgic and we're not being contrived. We're basically saying that this should be the future of Irish whiskey as well. We took our eye off the ball. We've got some amazing Potstills out there, but I think we can offer so much more. And peated, well-balanced, bold, oily, thick, viscous, spicy Potstill is what we want to drink. And you know yourself, once you're drinking whiskey, you always want to progress on to something maybe a bit more powerful or a bit more interesting. I think world whiskey doesn't get any better than the potential that Irish whiskey has. And that's what we're going to try to achieve. And I think we're going to see a lot more of it in Ireland going forward, which is brilliant. Where are we now?
There's Niall there saying people need to enable their mics. So want to chime in.
Okay. So if anybody wants to enable a mic, so we want to chime in. Who's there? We'll go with the first one. Mark Silk, do you want to enable your mic just to hear if there's a wee thought there? He's probably doing one of those things, when you're in the work and you take a selfie of your face, you just pretend that you're in the office. But
There's no sound coming back on your laptop, so
oh, is there not?
I'm not sure if they're talking. I think someone's using kind of.
Indeed.
Thanks, am I on, Brendan? Can you hear me?
There's someone talking now.
That's me, yeah.
Turn my volume is down, maybe. Mark, what's up? What do you think, man?
That's astounding.
You enjoying that, are you?
Yeah, definitely am. Only poured a wee bit out and I was thinking I'll take it easier, but I might pour some more.
It's tough.
For the nose on it's lovely, and the colour in it, so for 6 months, it's unbelievable. It really is. Fair play.
It's crazy how much. Yeah.
There's no.
But the PX just throws colour in the stuff, so we really cleaned out this
Yeah.
cask, and it's still very dark.
You could easily say that was a well-aged whiskey. You could definitely say that. No doubt about it. And the
I think
peatedness
the first
is
time you
something
take-
that I haven't. Yeah.
The first time you take a little sip from it, it tastes a little bit like young. But then the more you drink it, it becomes more palatable, and you got a tiny drop of water, it becomes more palatable then afterwards. It just tastes completely different from what whiskey tastes like. But there has been big influences in Killowen Distillery as well that we might add. Whenever I was in Tasmania, or when I was in Australia, I was in a whiskey club and I tasted a 2-year-old whiskey that, in my opinion, was better than a 24-year-old Redbreast, which is two amazing whiskies. And I wanted to see what he was doing different, and he was doing small batch distillation. He was doing small batch distillation, and he was doing flame fed stills, and it was one 500-litre still that he was using the whole time. And that was so I said. And he was great. This was Peter Bignell from Belgrove Distillery, and he's going to be taking part of this in this festival as well. And Peter had, so we come out there. Am I still in? Peter was is taking part in this festival as well, and he basically came and visited us as well and said, the spirit tastes good and everything that we're doing is good, and we just have to keep that integrity going forward. Another major influence for Killowen Distillery was just has to be said, was the research and the enthusiasm of Fionn O'Connor. So whenever I was coming up from Australia, I always made sure I dropped down to Dublin on a Tuesday night to the Dingo Whiskey Bar just to get a little taste of whiskey and hear firsthand things that the man's saying, and very enthusiastic. Great knowledge of history as well, and a lot of people know him, and a lot of people don't. But the influence that he has on the whiskey industry is phenomenal for one man, and it comes from, well intentioned and integrity, and I think those ideals need to be carried through, and so we just wanted to put that out there now, early on in the whiskey festival. So thanks very much to those two guys for a lot of influence.
You'll be doing something with that over the next few years.
That's top secret. So I think a few things. But good stuff. There's Jarlath Watson. Everybody's always interested to hear what Jarlath has to say. Jarlath, do you want to turn off your mic? Or turn it on? Jarlath, are you working? Or are you...
Jarlath's about 9 samples in.
Is he? Who's that talking now?
That's Gareth.
Gareth, well, what are you thinking about that now?
I think it's class. Like, it's such you can tell, like, just the mix of different stuff that's gone in there. Like, you're getting creaminess, smokiness, pepperiness. Like, nothing's like a wee afternote. It's all just quite well mixed in and balanced. And, like, the taste even has a good bit of fruit coming through. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
It's funny. Do you know what the taste actually still tastes like? It tastes like our wash. So we do open fermentation. So we basically have these cubes, and we put our wort into the cube, and we take it outside and let it cool down naturally. And it's a very dangerous thing. Brewers' worst nightmare doing that, because it gets infected with wild yeast and wild bacteria. So we encourage that native lactobacillus to get in there. And there's different concentrations and types of bacteria up in the mountain than there would be down in Cork, or there would be in Dublin, or there would be just at sea level here. We got this maritime highland environment. We got these fluctuations of weather and fluctuations of yeasts and bacteria and different seasonal bacteria as well. So none of our fermentations are ever the same. And there's this variation. But one thing that is consistent about them is massive fruitiness, pineapple, sour notes. So you're getting this citrus blast of, you can get apples and pears and bananas and pineapple, and sometimes lemon whenever it gets really dodgy. And so you're getting this 9% funky beer, and we pop it into our still. And when it comes out the first time, you don't taste it, but after you distill it the second time, it tends to go away. But see, as soon as you put it into a cask, or even after a few weeks, all of those fruity notes start to come out again, and it's absolutely mental how much it starts to taste like the beer, the wash that was going into the stills in the first place. So it's good that you've mentioned those fruity notes there. It just tastes very nice.
What is this? Someone just put me in here.
Paul Kane. He's probably got a couple of hours sleep this morning, did he?
I don't know, did I?
Good man, there he is. There he is. Yes. How are you?
I'm all right. Can you hear me okay, yeah?
Yeah, dead on.
Is there much feedback coming off my mic, no?
Perfect. No, I think you can hear the feedback yourself. I'm starting to learn that, but they can't hear.
Who's they? Who's all those beautiful participants? Is that what we're talking about?
We've got Ian Garrett, the world famous dub. Then we've got Craig, Peter,
Ian Garrett's got multiple passports. Just saying. He most definitely has.
Indeed.
Here, so listen, Brendan. Just apologies for not being there at the very start of your first drink. But how many have you had so far?
We just did one. We've been spending all the time talking about this first one because it's our favourite one to slabber about. So and we get a bit of feedback on it as well.
What did you have?
To talk about. I think it's
what was it?
It's the Peated Potstill, the non-GI compliant one. We think it's quintessentially Killowen and quintessentially it's Irish produce, or what should be. And so we had a good chat about it. And we also had Danny McGreevy, a piper, playing some fantastic little pipe. He's the we missed out on. You know.
I heard that. Yeah. How would you rate Peated Potstill? Absolute shite. Is there a point? Is there something? I'll just leave that just now. Wayne Sloan, I was on time. Do you know who wasn't on time? The guys who opened up, they weren't on time. I was here on time. But listen, no, Brendan, you can hear me okay, yeah? Are you sure? Because I get an echo in here.
Perfect.
I wonder if that's better.
No, it's
that's
perfect.
better.
Don't worry.
Right, no, it's just that there's an echo. Obviously, I'm in the friend at hand. I just want to say, first of all, well done to everyone who's on board just now. 2 o'clock drinking is a speciality. I learned it last year, which you just start at 12 o'clock and just keep going. Mick McGuire, thanks so much. I just want to know, I don't have a tasting pack, Brendan, because as you know, we tried to get as much of the liquid out to everyone else, so I didn't get one. So I have nothing
Did you not give yours
of yours to
through?
taste. I did. Did you see how nice I was? You like that? Wayne Sloan's getting everything today. You know, because Wayne Sloan put a hell of a shift in, so Wayne Sloan gets everything he wants. Wayne Sloan gets. So he's getting his box of Connacht driven all the way down from Belfast later as well. Listen, it's good crack.
You got a W O'Connell as well there, is he? That's good.
No, listen, brilliant, Brendan. Liam, what's the crack? I don't have the T-shirt yet. Look, I've had to wear my own T-shirt. I don't have a Killowen T-shirt
you don't
yet.
get
No,
one. It's only VIPs get them. Sorry.
only VIPs. I tell you what I do have though. 2 seconds. I tell you what I do have. I've got this. Where is it? Let me have a look. Oh, I've got that.
Nice one. Which one's this? Number 3.
Oh, this is from the world. No, that's from the world exclusive box. It's sitting in front of me. So I might just have to crack that open and just pretend I'm drinking something else. I've got my wee glass.
Jamie Cotter's giving out. He says that. Lovely. Jamie's giving out. He says that we need to hurry up and get on to the next drink, or Kit Charles is going to kill us. So
Kit Charles doesn't even have his box for this tasting. I hope Kit Charles is not drinking the wrong box. He's in director's cut. He's in the director's cut.
Don't kill us anyway.
Aye, listen, Brendan. You crack on. I'm just going to listen to what you're saying, and if you want me to talk, I'll talk.
Right.
If not, you can take me off the screen. I don't care. I can sit here in the background. Get rid of me. No bar.
Yeah.
All right.
No, it's great to have you jump in. It's great to get the comments, you know. It's excellent.
If you want me,
There's
Brendan,
just
if you want me, I'm here for you.
Yeah. No, that's good. That's good. No, 100%. You're a legend, Paul. Thanks. Yeah. You stay
lad.
with us, man, for the crack.
Okay, no.
It's not the same without you. So this one's the second one, guys, is Flame-Fed Poitin. Is that right? Paul didn't give me a book to see what we're meant to be doing, so...
You wrote the order. It was you that wrote the order. So,
that's
no,
my order's correct then.
it's Flame-Fed Poitin. Flame-Fed Poitin's the second one. All
So
right.
this is Poitin, okay? And we're going... Have you got a wee tune in hand? Yeah. So Danny's he's going to play us now a wee tune, because this is a Poitin making area up here, and Danny knows well. Also, Danny's got a close relative who makes Poitin into too. So, Yes. Well done. 100% now. So, okay. But here, so the next one here we're jumping on to now is Killowen Flame-Fed Poitin. So this is at 48%. All right. So pour it into your glass if you're lucky enough to get a wee Belfast whiskey one. Now, I'm sorry, read it up. So we love this spirit. This is Killowen Poitin. We make it in very small batches, and it's fantastic on its own. It's fantastic with water. For me, you get a lot of earthy notes in it on the nose, and vanilla, and refined sugar, and a little bit of fruitiness in there as well. And it doesn't taste like a new make spirit. For some reason, it tastes like an aged spirit, and we think it's because of the way we make it. Again, there's that Maillard reaction going on in the stills. You've got Ireland's only worm tub condensers, which capture a huge amount of oil into the spirit. They're highly inefficient. They work, it takes twice as long to run a still using a worm tub than it does with a shell and tube condenser. And that means that you're not creating a draw on the still. That means that the vapour is staying in the still for longer. So that distillate, that vapour, the condensate, before it condenses, it's sitting in there and it's interacting with the copper. So you get much more reflux and much more, basically, much more of those sulfates are turning into esters and they're coming out and you're getting a better quality spirit. It also allows for the spirit to stay in the still for longer, which is creating much more burning at the base of the still, particularly entirely in the wash still, more so than the spirit still. And then whenever we do still see the gunk that we have to clean out of our condenser of our wash still every morning. We get the power hose in as well and we clean the base of the still every day just to lift the burnt off it. So lovely stuff. It's very fresh and it's very versatile. If you use this in an old fashioned instead as well, instead of anything, any whiskey, you get a much better old fashioned. There's just so much more spice in here if you want a good stiff short drink. And And we call it a Killowen coffee instead of an Irish coffee. And you only need half a measure because it's very strong in terms of its flavour. You can just smell it all day. I love it. Cask down in Cork, a fantastic bar. They're now running a cocktail of the month down there, which is amazing. So they're very creative down there, and we're delighted to get onto their menu. And yeah, so if you ever get a chance, or if any of the Corkonians are out there now, nip over. They also have some of the Hessian sacks down there, so if anybody that needs another bag for collecting a Killowen, run in there and grab one. The palate follows the nose quite a bit, but you get a little bit of tree sap and pine needles in there as well, and a huge amount of like castor sugar or icing sugar or something. And it's amazing because only about 60% of this mash bill is bloody malted produce. The rest is unmalted. But inside the mash tun, those enzymes that are in the malted barley work their way over to the unmalted barley and convert those starches into sugars. There's a small amount of oat in this, not a huge amount of oat. So I find that it's much more aromatic on the nose. And then the flavour hits your palate, whereas if there's more oat in there, it would sort of coat your tongue in oil and it would stay there for longer. But even still, it's full of oils. It's absolutely full of oils. See it running down the glass. Good stuff. Any thoughts on the patching? Liam's driving, so he's taking it handy.
Yeah, I'm just on the water, but no, I had a Killowen coffee last night, along with a penny Guinness, and it's definitely one of my favourite go-to drinks. Yeah, it's lovely. So, say you've already got that sugar, that powdered sugar in there, so you don't need to sweeten it too much either when you're having a coffee. Maybe a touch of brown sugar just to suit it, but it's class, and it's good to go to the Poitin every couple of weeks, like after you've had a Belfast whiskey week tasting or another tasting, and you've been drinking a nice bit of whiskey, you go back to the Poitin, it just reminds you of what a nice made spirit can be, a white spirit. So that we don't cask age this Poitin, although you can for up to, I think, 90 days, or what's the limit?
I think it's about 90 days, yes.
90 days, but it doesn't need anything from a cask. Really, it's class, and it's good the way the recipe has come from a traditional local recipe from around here. They obviously knew what they were doing when they were making it locally. It's probably been years and years of R&D going into it, and we've been able to refine it and make it in a traditional way up here in Killowen.
Indeed.
Top stuff.
Indeed. I'm going to go on another GA rant here. So obviously we know that the whiskey GA has been corrupted. Unfortunately, the Poitin one is, I don't know who wrote that, some school child down in, I don't know, South Dublin probably. It's removed, so removed from what Poitin is. Say that you can make Poitin from anything. I don't believe that. I think Poitin, well, I suppose you can to an extent. Poitin was originally made from grain and should be encouraged at least to be made from grain. When you start using molasses, you're making rum, Yes, Poitin was made from molasses and that later on, but the traditional way of making it was grain. And if people had grain at hand, they would make it with grain. And when I mean by grain, I mean it's mixed mash bills. There was malted barley, unmalted barley, and there was bloody oats. Huge amounts of oats. And they would have malted their own stuff. And the way they would have malted it was by smoking it. So the next Poitins that we're going to start looking into are smoked Poitins. And they're going to be really interesting. Mixed mash bills, smoked Poitins, aged creatively. And it's something that we're going to have good fun with. And it gives people a chance to taste aging spirit as well, Sorry, Jimmy. No offense, it's Dublin, family there and everything. It's just that it's not the most rural population, if you know what I mean, with a connection to rural distilling. Illicit distilling, which the entire history of Poitin, as we know it, has been illicit because it's been illegal from 1600s on. It's not very recently. So Poitin is a drink for everyone. They make it in the glens of Antrim. They make it in the Mourne Mountains. They still make it in Donegal, Connemara, Kerry, the Midlands, They make it everywhere, and it's something that I think we should get behind. And when the government enforce a wishy-washy GI about it, it speaks volumes about the the ignorance and the lack of concern they have for what should be a UNESCO product for Ireland. And that's another thing that we're working on. We're trying to get it as a UNESCO product. Mightn't be successful because we haven't got the punch, but hopefully we get there. So Jamie knows a man. So any thoughts on the patching? Any would like to hear? It's good and bad, whatever. It's great fun. Who have we got? Yeah, good stuff. Louise, you're usually chirpy enough. Give us a bit of crack there. See what you think about the patching. Oh, I think you might need to turn your mic off. Right, no bother. Can you poke somebody?
There,
Vanilla?
is that my mic on?
Vanilla, any thoughts on the patching? No. There we go. There's somebody chirping in now.
Hello, is that my mic
Go.
on?
It is indeed. Give us a bit of crack there.
I have to say, I absolutely love the potching. First time I got to try it was at the Institute Institute of Wines and Spirits, and it blew me away back then. It still blows me away. It's incredibly easy to drink, so light and fresh on the palate. Just way too easy to drink, and very, very bad on multiple levels, because you do not want to know the state I woke up at in the next morning. It was not good.
It is. It definitely takes you by surprise. It's 48%. It doesn't come across 48%, and it can blow the socks off you.
It really doesn't.
Especially when you're getting extra normal UK, Northern Ireland size measured.
Yeah. No.
35 ml of a 48% drink. That's very potent.
It's ridiculously easy. Too easy, in fact. But no, very, very light, very, very fresh. Would love to kind of see how, because a couple of mixologist guys that I know that are really inventive in what they produce, and I'd love to see what they would do with this, because I think they would come up with something really, really cool.
No, it's great. It's great. It is. Any thoughts on there, Liam?
Yeah, it's a very interesting point about a good mixologist working with the patching to create some fantastic cocktails. Now, we've only really dabbled in the old fashioned and a few other ones, but some of the creations of good bar people there is amazing. Like Brendan mentioned, the one in Cask it's got strawberries and honey mead in it and stuff, and unreal.
Yeah, Linda's great. She does down there, and she ferments. So
I can imagine how the kind of the honey and the mead would really balance it out, complement it really, really
go
well.
ahead, please.
Yeah.
So indeed. And
Just saying, I
this
can
is the bottle
imagine
for
how the
here.
honey and mead would really balance it out beautifully.
Yeah, no, agreed. Definitely does. So that's the bottle there. Slimline bottle. It's very simple. The whole idea of Killowen branding as well is meant to be minimalistic and simplistic. And basically, any of the information, all the information, as much as possible, goes on the bottle. The mash bill is on the back of this bottle, so you've got the recipe in the back of the bottle. So there's unmalted barley, there's malted barley, and there's oats, and there's wheat. But more importantly, there's a little bit of malted barley in here that's not really used. It's Maris Otter. It's malted barley, but it's a heritage grain. So we aren't able to get our hands on any of the Irish heritage grains yet, because they're bought up by much more bigger and powerful distilleries than us. So in the meantime, until these are more readily available, we've looked at heritage barleys from England. So Maris Otter is absolutely beautiful. It's a gorgeous grain. It tastes like anybody's ever in Italy and you get a lovely pizza in Italy and you get that really nice pizza crust. It actually just smells and tastes like that. It's full on and it's full of flavour. And we find that if you put just a tiny amount of it in, it just lifts the whole flavour profile. So although heritage grains don't carry the same yield and they're usually not the same size grain, they've got much more flavour and much more punch, and they're more expensive as well. But it's really worth it sometimes just indulging in them and using them in your mash bill. If you use too much of them, they can become very overpowering as well, which is great. But it's great to try around with it, But who's that? Cassandra Herr. If it wasn't 0742, where I am, all right, early morning, is it Cassandra? I don't know. There's no excuses. Get up. She must be over in the States, yeah. Good stuff.
Stuff to send.
And John Donnelly, you're right, there is some sort of honey notes in there as well, you know. Yeah. Stover's about our reception. Who's on chat now? Any thoughts? No. Unmute. There's Jarlath.
Hi, Brandon. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, for some reason people have been muting people. There's Paul Graham as well. But yeah, go ahead. Chat away, Jarlath.
Yeah, you know, I haven't got the pot chain because I didn't take a sample because I thought I had a bottle open in the house. It's in the distillery, but so I'm still drinking the number one.
Oh, good man, Jarlath.
And I remember being up at your plate and having the open fermentation and talking about the windbush and the yeast from the windbush and getting that sort of pineapple nut flavour into your fermentations and into your. I don't know why it's that conversation, but I just get those notes as well. I mean, at 4 or 5 years old, even three, that's going to be an absolute beast of a whiskey. You know, I think that's going to really, you know, get the industry really talking, because that was just something else. That number one.
Thanks very much. No, it means a lot to hear from yourself, because obviously you've got a huge wealth of knowledge. And Jonathan's always helped us out in Killowen as well, especially with this bond experimental series, you know, and when it's hard to get your hands on aged stock for blending, Jonathan stepped in and helped us out there too. So we're very grateful for the, you know, camaraderie that we get from Mecklenburg. And there's a huge sense of camaraderie around the county down distilleries, which is great, you know, going forward. So thanks very much, Jonathan. Cheers.
Cheers.
I wonder, should we jump on to the next one there? I just on that, I think it's nice to taste what peated Potstill is like, and then non-peated Potstill. If we were to actually age this potching, we could call it a Potstill because it complies with the current GA. But you can see the difference. If you had done this all the right way around, you would have got that, you know, mild spice, and then you would have got that explosion from the first one. So you can see this is a much more toned back version compared to the first one. There's much more flavour because it's got that broader mash bill, and also because it's got peat in there too. So that's the difference. So yeah, we're going to move our way on to the next one here. So this is part of the bonded experimental series. So everybody in this group right now, we're going to be the first people to taste it. This one doesn't exist yet.
Ooh.
What
are you doing?
It's lovely stuff.
Ooh. Pinot.
Pinot Noir. So yeah, now I see why you're sort of muting a couple of conversations now. But yeah, very good. So this cask here, this is the same blend as the others. So what we wanted to do was we wanted to create blended whiskey in Ireland, and obviously you have to do something different and exploit and exploit, you know, a bit of a market gap type thing. So what we looked at was producing these here, basically a blend that hasn't happened yet. So blending is an art, and it needs to be recognised. And JJ Carty are doing a great job of bonding and blending as well. And sometimes not all distilleries have got the might of using single malts, but we try to do the best job possible with the blend as well. It can be very challenging. And luckily, again, Ecklenville helped out in providing some 12-year-old plus Bushmill stock, County Antrim stock, sorry. And we've also got stock from County Louth. So basically, I suppose they don't mind saying it. They wouldn't mind, because that's what they set up for. Cooley Distillery distilled stock that then went to Great Northern. And so it's a blend of malt and grain as well. So the bonded experimental series, the grains are the age of the grain and the malt is on the back of the bottle, and we've done that to be as transparent as possible. But I do have to say that recently we've been terribly disappointed, and we're going to be telling everybody about this. But the Irish Whisky Association have written a letter to the Department of Agriculture complaining about Killowen Distillery's bottles, that were providing basically too much information on the back of the bottle. They said that we're confusing the consumer whenever everything that we do is to try to provide as much information as possible for the consumer. It's as if we're trying to pretend that we're older whiskey than we are. So saying that 2008 is the year of distillation is their interpretation of the GI, which, to be honest, the GI has got ridiculous statements throughout it. It says things like dark aromatic warehouses. You have to be a blender. You have to have years of experience. All of these fairy tale terms that are written by. I don't want to get too offensive here, but you can see where I'm coming from. But I think it was very disrespectful of independent brands whenever you write to the Department of Agriculture, and then the Department of Agriculture enforced EU law on the north, so into the north and onto us. So the next time we bottle something, we have to have bottlers on site, and they have to check the back of the label, and we have to make sure that the back of our label doesn't give the age of that stock. So that's the future now for the rest of this series, and that's my rant over. So anyway, C3 Pinot Noir. So again, this was the same blend ratio, and it was thrown in with this Pinot Noir cask 5, and just want to give it a little nose. Automatically, you get a lot of fruit. So what happened with these casks was that we got these lovely Burgundy casks from ASC Barrels in France, and we asked for them to be medium toasted, but they weren't toasted at all, hardly. And we got lovely, beautiful French casks. But as soon as you put your whiskey in it, because there's a high grain in these, it ripped into the wood very quickly. And after a number of weeks, the stuff was overpowered, and we don't think it was palatable. We don't think it was good. There was a lot of astringency, so we had to add more blend and then leave it in bourbon casks again, so that it would bring its way back. Start to mellow it out again, and so that you end up then with what you've got now. So for me, anyway, I'm getting a lot of fruity notes at the start there, even strawberries and a little bit of like Skittles as well. Do you want to read that? Where's your bottle? He's drinking all mine. He says he's driving. So yeah, there's a huge cask influence there, Mick. You're right. Robert's saying Skittles. Anybody else get a little bit of Skittles? I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but I get a huge fruit. There's one of our other whiskies that is aging right now as well. It's a massive sort of Skittly influence, or opal fruits as well. No, sorry, starbursts as well. So any thoughts on that one, guys? Do you like it? Yeah. Jason's agreeing. Skittles as well. That's all right. I thought it was just me, but naughty. But very good. Anything that has an influence of Skittles is a top whiskey. Good man, Mick. You're right. Tim Cook says put him to sleep in the mash tun of yours. So your cover doesn't say that. There's a high enough grain content in that, probably around 75%. Odd, roughly. I can't remember what the exact would be. But grain is very aromatic. And the grain that's coming from Great Northern, which was originally Cooley, it's great stuff. It really is. Grain is starting to grow in Ireland again now. A lot of people have a bit of a snobbery towards blends, but if you can pull it off right, it's great. And sometimes grain can be a little bit aggressive, but whenever you bring in malt just at the right quantities, it really helps. Sometimes you can overdo the malt. People think the more malt, the better. But it's actually not the case. The more malt you influence, it just throws off the balance. So you have to try and keep your malt to a low and at the right quantities. And when we're releasing our casks, the Bond experimental series, we release a cask. You have to time it. You have to want something that's different from the one previous, but at the same time, you have to release something that's ready. And luckily enough, the last cask, the Peated, was just ready on time. So we'll figure out what to release next. I think it might be this one. I think it's good to go now.
The portion was not as well. That skipping influence, the red wine, Burgundy influence, they're drawing that malt out more and tightening it.
Does indeed, because you get this, those lovely fruity notes that are in the malt, really topping as well. No, we're delighted with that. It was the last couple of casks, we released had much more. We're trying to balance with those earthy notes and those old notes and more dry notes. Whereas this time, you just have to accept it, that it's a lovely, lively, aromatic, sweet whiskey. We're not going to fight that in any way, and so it's nice. It's different, It's basically like a hybrid of what Irish whiskey sort of like,
Next one around that, I get.
Some good Charlotte as well. Trying this as well. Yeah, might try. Lucky enough, we've got good tools to play with, and it's hard sometimes to find things to play with in terms of blend ratios. So I think going forward, we'll just have to accept the challenge and keep looking and keep trying to be relevant and feed the whiskey drinking population with what we think they want, because we see ourselves as whiskey drinkers as well, and just try and keep the fingers on the pulse of what consumers want at the ground level. And usually when we try to feed our own habits, we find that we're in line with what other people are thinking, and that's the idea going forward. Mark, any idea when this might be released? If we had the time right now to put it in a bottle, I would. But what we need to consider, a lot of people who buy our whiskies are the same as us. They're not everybody's flush enough to keep buying whiskey, and it can put a bit of pressure on. So for people who have been buying our whiskey from the start, we'd like to, space them out as well, so that's at least 1.5 paychecks in between purchases, because they're also buying other whiskey too and living. So so we do keep that in mind. So this is ready to go now, but we just want to hold off for a little bit, just so it's fair on consumers, so to speak. It would be good for our cash flow if we started selling, but you need to have just respect for people who've shown a bit of loyalty to the brand before, everybody's or a lot more people started to enjoy what Killowen's doing. So that's the idea there.
So this gas is probably
attention to it in terms of how to be reworked, and it probably could have been a write-off or could have been walked away from, but I think you were done well to bring it back, and it's tasting excellent now.
It's funny, you can always rescue whiskey, it seems. Most times you can rescue it in some way by vatting it out or putting it in another cask. I don't think it's in this tasting, but we have another one. We had our rye whiskey, which is 95% rye, and it was destroyed in the same cask for the same reason. They're overly powerful, very aggressive whiskies. And then we transferred that into ex-bourbon casks, quarter ex-bourbon casks, so there'd be much more interaction with the char, heavily charred ones. And the chars rescued a lot of that astringency back out of the whiskey. So with a bit of time and patience and a bit of gamble and educated guessing as well, it's funny, you can really bring things back around. But yeah. So we set up a track damage scheme, George says. I think all of us probably should set up direct damage schemes with Ecklandville included, just to keep, so we can keep up and make sure we don't miss out on anything, you just don't want to miss out. And then there's that issue, whenever you finish a bottle, do you tuck into the other bottle that you're not meant to tuck into? Yeah, it's, and then there's explaining to the better half who doesn't have the same whiskey problems that we do, that it's a good investment, So the release for this will be in the next few weeks, probably. we're not sure when. Play it by ear. But whenever we get a chance. So yeah, I really enjoyed that one. Get a wee bit of water to clean out the palate. This next one's very funny. So this is an Imperial Oatmeal Stout cask. There's lots of breweries in Ireland, as we all know. The brewery boom was bigger than the distillery boom in terms of the numbers of craft breweries. Sadly, a lot of them have fallen away the wayside at the minute. There's quite a few still going strong. So we're in the Mourne Mountains, and Mourne Mountains Brewery in Mourne Point focus on making beers that are inspired by the Mournes. And this one was called Imperial Oatmeal Stout. So oats were grown widely around the area too. Here, we call it oats, we call it corn, because it was called corn before yellow meal arrived here, which is the American corn. And it's still called corn today. It's still grown. It was a large part of the staple diet for humans and animals. It coincided side by side with the potato. And it's a big part of life. It's a big part of dietary culture to this day. So this was an Imperial Oatmeal Stout, and we thought it was a cracking beer made by the guys. What was the name of it again?
It's called Hoops and Staves.
Hoops and Staves.
So it was, I think it was 9.6% or something like that. So high ABV oatmeal stout, and they put it in a ex-bourbon barrel, which prior to that held single malt Irish whiskey for 12 years. So the cask came from Peated. So there was good quality malt whiskey in it before it. Then the oatmeal stout was in it for, I think, around 9 months. And they usually release it around Christmas. So it was a beer from the release last Christmas. I think I have six bottles of it. But because of the high ABV, it's good to age as well. That beer will be tasting great for 2, 3, 4, 5 years in the bottle. So sometime we're gonna maybe pair it to taste the whiskey with the beer when we get a chance. But yeah, it was a good cask for us to get to do a pairing with a local brewery very close to us here, and also a good stout that we could put our whiskey into it, or well, the Bonded Experimental Series whiskey into it, and get a nice finish. So I think like Jameson Caskmates has been very popular worldwide, and the stout cask one I think is much better than the IPA. But when you get a good beer like an Imperial Oatmeal Stout, it's bound to heighten that than just an ordinary sort of 4.5-5% stout.
Exactly.
It's been around about 8 months in that cask for us.
It's a long time in a cask. Since I took the sample out and gave it to Belfast Whisky Week, I thought it tasted cracking. And then I took a sample out for myself and Liam last night, and it's overpowered now. It's crazy how quickly something can happen in 4 weeks. So I don't know what we're going to do with this one. It might be the first whiskey that we ever filter. I don't know. Might just have power back a bit, or maybe I'll take it out and stick it in a stout cask or in a fresh bourbon cask for a time. Or maybe we'll just send it out the way it is and let people add a bit of water, because once you add a tiny bit of water, it brings it right back. It's got the sample I have has got a little bit more bitterness in it than yours. When we give it yourselves, it was perfect for the market. It was as good as it would get, so to speak. And now, well, maybe there was something I had from a lunch yesterday. It could have been a bad day. I don't know. So hopefully, I'm persuaded otherwise today. You done it? Do you want to nose nicely?
Yeah.
Where's your glue? I should get one up here. Okay. There you are. So this is sitting on the stout cask, and before I could afford to buy good whiskies in bars, and before bars had any good whiskies locally, because all we basically had was powers in the bars here, and you always had stout on tap. But that's what I used to drink, was a pint of stout and a powers, and you would go back between the two, and I think it's the best balanced diet anybody could ever ask for. It's just great. You can pair them up, and you work your way through the evening, and you take your time, and there's no better way to relax. And so a stout and a whiskey. So whenever you have a stout influenced whiskey, I think it's just ideal. Automatically, this actually smells better than it did last night already. I think I was being a bit hard on the distillery last night, but no, it's much better. It's a lot drier.
Coffee and chocolate.
Yeah, that's good. And I don't know about you guys, but mine's cloudy a bit. There's just so much that's come out of that cask. Stout's a real dirty beer. Fucking hell, that's good. Right. That's astringent on the palate. It is very astringent, isn't it? It's different. I'm going to add it. Don't be afraid to add water at any stage, because all of these are full strength beers. I know, for example, Keith McAlevey there, he's supposed to be working today, so if anybody knows him, ring up his boss. He was probably also in the beer last night, like Liam. And
Water really opens it up there. Yeah.
Still very dry. It opens up the dryness and the peppery note. In fact, I think that's probably very well balanced. So, John, if you've had this, it opens up all your day, right? A drop of water just opens it right up, and then it balances it well. But it's really important that you give that to the consumer, you know. Give that responsibility to the consumer, we think, just so they can make it to their own sweet spot. God, it's great. Jonathan had this before a few months ago, and then he's had it again now. I think it changed so much in that length of time. I think we might just pull it out now, and just in case, and stick it in something else just put it in a vessel, and then before we can put it into. There's these here. Usually, you know, the more well-off distilleries can get stainless steel vessels, but at Killowen we use what's called blue oak. Basically blue drums. You can put the whiskey in a blue drum, but make sure it's inert, you know, they're well clean, and it'll sit in there for a while, maybe a few weeks, and we get it bottled.
I think the cask is, you know, send them all down for 12 years, and tell you it's quite amazing. The cask, 10 years old now.
Crazy, yeah.
Bit of, you know, a fresh barrel might awaken it a bit too.
The only thing is there's no room at the minute for a big cask, so we might throw it into even a really well cleaned out sherry cask, because a bit of that virgin wood maybe might throw a bit of life back into it, but at the same time, it's good to have a dry whiskey. Last night I got the Everbrewcladdy port cask at home, and I find it very saline, very dry whiskey. I wasn't in the mood for a light whiskey. I wasn't in the mood for a real fruity whiskey. And I just wanted something savoury, and if that's my go-to, when I feel like that, it's like, you know, if you went to the shop and you buy a packet of crisps or something, that's the whiskey that I went for, and it was spot on. It was perfect. You nursed over it for a long time. Maybe that's a similar offering. I think it's good to have that complete difference in the stuff that we're releasing as well. It's amazing what casks can do. Obviously, we're a distillate-led distillery. We want the distillate to do the talking, but at the same time, casks are vital, you know. It's amazing what the difference that can come. You know. Food pairing would be great with that.
Yeah, definitely.
Cheeses
and desserts.
Yeah.
And some chocolate.
And the chocolate, yeah. Good stuff. It's very different. Again, stuff's just full of oils. I think without the County Antrim stock, I think that would be just out of balance. It wouldn't work. You need that little bit of apricot stuff coming through in the background, balancing that off. So my homework for Monday morning is to just get that out of the cask and put it somewhere. You know, we've no room in here, so we might put it in the roof. We'll figure something out. I I just do that. But yeah, so we're having it there for a few minutes. So Cassandra, you've let it breathe a little bit, have you? Jarlath just said he'd pair it with another glass of whiskey. That's clever, all right. But yeah, it's nice to have those.
Never two in one,
Exactly. That's right. So the next one then. Are we ready to go on to the next one yet, or does anybody want to take their time with this for a while? Have you any more tunes? Danny's going to play us another wee tune here. He's good at what he does, Paul Graham. It is indeed.
Listen, yeah.
The two things go well together.
Music and kill.
Music and good whiskey. Right, I'm going to play the check again. See if we checking about that today. And it's a tune that I wrote myself, building a very old head. Just to honour the work that the boys are doing here. And, it's a great addition to the Kilfegan, Killowen area, and everybody's very pleased for them and wish them all the best. So this is a jig called The Trip to Killowen Distillery.
Fantastic stuff.
One Danny wrote there.
Oh, was it?
Called The Trip to Killowen Distillery.
No, I did that
before.
I ran to the toilet. That's great. Isn't it lovely? Fair play, Danny. The Trip to Killowen Distillery. #1 in the UK in 2020. That is belter. Thanks very much. But yeah, Jarlath loves it. Big syrupy, chewy, unapologetic sort of whiskey. Indeed, you have to have these Marmite whiskies that are, love or I don't think you could hate this one, but it's definitely a base liver, and sometimes it's good to maybe just release bold statements and create a favourite, and so it's something we might just. Well, wait a second, I'll turn on the power here. All right. No, sorry. I thought I had to say. Do you want to update your computer? Do I? Right. Right. Thought it was the power cable conked out. So, anyway, I'll get back to it. Does anybody want to chirp in and just have a bit of crack on the tasting notes there? Keith McAlevey, do you want to open up your microphone? It'd be good to hear from you. Keith? No? I know who would do. Paul Graham. Paul Graham, you've just been unmuted. You want to chat? See what you think?
Oh, did I unmute myself?
No, I unmuted you.
Oh, you unmuted me. Ah, right, okay. Yeah, the stout one, I don't think that should be filtered or reduced down. I think that's just go out to people as is.
Right.
And let them deal with it, because it is lovely, even without water. And then with water, it just completely opens it up. It opens up the helps ease off the dryness a little.
Very good. I hear you. hear you. But it's nice to give that the opportunity to the consumer, isn't it? And let them.
Absolutely, yeah. It's better to have the option than to not.
Yeah, no, it's good fun that way. I hear you, man. But does it come across drier than the others? Do you, especially whenever you juxtapose it with the Pinot Noir, and then you're going for Skittle Bomb, and then you're going for like fucking like
Yeah, you went from
tea.
one that was very heavy on the fruity sweetness to one that's very heavy on the dryness.
Yeah, it's good, and that's what we're trying to do when we jump between. All of these things just go. One's up and then one's down. It's just
something extreme. Yeah, like the Islay one. The Islay one was very heavy on the spiciness.
It was, wasn't it? The wood spice in particular. The Islay one was clever. We have to jump on it as well, don't we? Yeah. I suppose it's the next one. It might just lead us on to it. So the biggest shame with this next one, so I'm going to hold up the next one, guys, was the Islay cask. The biggest shame of that is that we've none of it left, and I basically I had a bottle and I drank it all. I was drinking it because I didn't know whether or not it was good enough in the market. I was sitting going, does everybody like this, or whether not, or would it be too Marmite for the industry? And we're always afraid that, because we're releasing things that are different, that might not taste like what people expect things to taste like. They might be different. I'm not aware of any grain blend, like high percentage of grain blends that have a big peated influence in them. And so that caused me a bit of worry. And so the flavour profile was completely different. But we went ahead with it and we released it anyway. And I'm not going to lie, I was so anxious about this one. Not just that, it was in a really old cask at the start, a spent cask that came from Islay. And that spent cask gave, more like astringent, woody notes that are probably like earthy in their outlook. Probably sitting in a really dodgy Islay warehouse for a very long time. So it's been used for 2 whiskies as well. And before that, it was used for bourbon. So the wood itself had very little to offer. So it wasn't recharred or anything. It just came to us wet. And we put the stuff into it. And I like those notes, to be honest. I think those sweet aromatic notes, them being paired well with those other notes, I think it works well. I find that exciting myself. But I didn't know if the industry would like it. So I kept drinking my bottle thinking, is that good or is it good? And then once people started to enjoy it, I started to enjoy it too. And then I've none left now. So this is our last wee drop. I'm going to share with Liam and Danny here. These lids won't come off. So everybody else, you can pour your own. Right, oh, you haven't got one yet. This is all there is. I'm going to get a knife and open this. Yeah, but this seemed to be quite a successful one for us as well. The Scottish Whisky Society, who we have a lot of appreciation for, were concerned that we could be misleading the consumer, and they got in touch with us recently and said that it's a wee bit misleading. Well, I'm fair enough to them. I can see where they're coming from. Some people might consider this to be Scotch, but we assured them that we wouldn't do it again. And there was a nice email reply, and there was good nature between both parties. So, good terms with the Scottish Whisky Association. And apologies if there was any misinterpretation of the label, but this is definitely Irish whiskey. And we want people to know that. And we're just influencing our casks the same way as the Basque Chocolina cask. It isn't Basque whiskey, it's Irish whiskey. So full respect to the guys there. Thank you very much. Look forward to meeting them for a wee drink in the future. So So goodbye, Stout cask. This one sold out quite well for a wee distillery like us. We were happy with it. They're done. Do you have a glass name that you want to nose? So these 50ml samples they're good. They're good for sharing, It's like Liam's dram and a can idea. So we'll get onto that later, but it's great, great wee measuring size. I already know how much water I just want in. It's the tiniest, probably about a teaspoonful for up to 35 mils. Seems to work for me. It gives me my sweet spot, and it's absolutely ideal. On the nose, there's a tiny bit of peat, not a huge amount, but you're really getting the blend breakdown in there. You're getting those apricots from the Northampton stock, and you're getting the same time that heavy aroma that comes from the Cooley. Really nice blend, you know, and particularly the heavy aromas that come from a grain whiskey. And then that 11-year-old piece of Cooley, which is lost in here, but it definitely adds a bit of quality. So there's about 5% of that 80% blend is Cooley malt as well. So it all helps. But then you start to get that peated then when it starts to breathe. I'm getting it now, and you're getting like that welly boot peated as well. You know, that burnt rubber from that old Islay influence that just comes through there, which is great. And it balances really well with those lovely fruity notes and a bit of wood spice, tannin heavy. I love that one. I just think it's good fun, you know. I really like it. But yeah, McMaguire, you're saying you get yours later on as well. And Patrick Duffy, wrong bottle. Oh dear. Patrick, have you got the wrong bottle in there, or do you think it's in...
Just thinking that it's totally different.
Oh, is that what you mean? Right. Just completely. It does. Sean O'Neill, you're right. Let that breathe. Maybe we can just sit here for a minute and have a bit of crack, but if that sits and breathes there for a second, it does taste completely different after a few minutes. Grain is a fantastic beast. The Irish whiskey, Irish whiskey in general, a century ago turned its back on grain for a while. Well, I know Ulster was a powerhouse of exporting grain to the UK for their feed their gin habits and whatnot, but grain whiskey is a very interesting beast. It offers huge aroma. It really rips into the cask, but once you open it and leave it in a glass for a while, it changes very quickly. Because there's a lot of volatile compounds in there that want to breathe and they start going out into the atmosphere. It's basically you've got a high density spirit and there's a lot less oils in a grain. But if you've got a single malt, there's a lot more oils sitting in there suspended between the liquid compounds. And if you've got a Potstill, proper traditional Potstill again, you can imagine that's just going to be jam-packed full of fusel oils and congeners. That's why we love it. But there's nothing better than a nice, light, aromatic grain. And that really heavy single malt in there with it, with the peated influence.
Yeah, everything's changing.
It did. We could have left it in there maybe for another while before we released it. In fact, we bottled this a full month or so before we were able to start selling it. There was just a few delays. And but if we hadn't let it for another month, there would be more of a peated influence because of the way the weather's been fluctuating lately. But there was that little splash of heat that came in May, and we tasted it a week in after, and we just thought that's ready to go. So we just bottled it up. The reason for the delay, by the way, was Hessian bags, and they're made ethically in India. There's nothing wrong with working overseas. We encourage it, but they're made ethically, so you know there's fair trade wages and there's minimal damage to the environment with this action made. But it took such a long time to come to us. The factories were shut down. They still are working part time. That we just thought we have to release it anyway. So yeah, Louise, you get back to it now after it's sat for a minute. It smells much more palatable now. Lovely stuff. Mick McGuire's on a 2-hour lunch break. Mick, phone in sick. It's Friday. Plus, you work in Dublin anyway. Nobody works in Dublin. They're all cowboys.
Oh.
It's actually much better now that it's breathing.
Oh. After a couple of
The
minutes,
finish is excellent as well. You get a biscuity note that
Fantastic
you get
with
the
a little
finish I
gravy.
did there now anyway, that you would get, the same in a single malt, for example. Lovely biscuity finish there. So yeah, no, that's great. You might actually save some of that for later on. You get a wee bit of that, what do they call it? People like to say the word umami at every turn now. But yeah, a little bit of mushroomy note in there and a bit of earthiness. Basically like autumn forest floor sort of note. If you were to say rotten organic matter, it might turn people off, but that's exactly what it is. Biodegrading organic matter. Compost. But I'm going to jump in here and have a bit of crack with somebody. Who have we got? Mick McGuire, before you go. Mick, you're live on air. I can hear you and you can hear me. So any thoughts on that one before you go back to your Dawson?
Yeah, I was going to say, stop calling me Mick. Can you call me Susan or something, just in case someone's listening in from work?
No problem. No problem, yeah.
No, I love that. Like, I big peated whiskey drinker now, and that's fairly light on the people. I think, yeah, I'm definitely getting it maybe later on in the, kind of second part of the palate sort of thing. It comes on a bit stronger, but yeah, really good. I'm on to my second full bottle of it, so it's, yeah, I'm definitely enjoying it. Not right now.
Yeah.
Since I bought them. Yeah.
No, it's just funny. It goes down very well, and I just wish I enjoyed my bottle more. At the time, I think it was just really apprehensive because sometimes there's expectation about what whiskey should be, and sometimes if you're not really following that, people might not enjoy it. But luckily, people on this forum right now are people who appreciate whiskey for what it is at the time, and just appreciate good flavour and good critical thought. And I'm glad this one's been so successful. It was funny, there was a shop in One Point rang us yesterday and said, can we get a replacement bottle? And I said, there's none left. And they said, but there's bits of black stuff in the bottle. And there was a woman going, I just can't buy it. And I was like, don't worry about it. I'll buy it back off you if you want.
I was going to say, I'll replace it for them. It's not a problem.
It's funny, isn't it? But these are the things you deal with. It's funny, we don't have the same foothold in the Republic as we do in the North. And but we're able to distribute it in the North. So we make sure that we sell it to shops as much as possible, just so it's widespread, so that people can stumble across a bottle now and again. And we just like that romantic idea of it being out there, rather than it just being bought up very quickly. And it's been beneficial to date because you can always direct people to where people want a bottle. But the negative side of that is that you've got these people who they haven't got a big knowledge about what we're doing, and they're confused. And they're sitting going, well, why is this a 50 CL? And why is it expensive? And why is there char in it? And why is it so strong? And you're like, just hold on to that, and you'll sell it in a few months. So it's great. So we're trying to spread it around as much as possible, right the way across the province. There's in mid Ulster, there's a good few whiskey shops that have bought up our products as well. So it's good, and they're still sitting there. And Jonesborough is a little border village between Uri and Dundalk, and it's very remote. And there's two shops, two off licenses there, and they have a very small population, probably about 800 people in the village. And the two of them stock the full range of cologne, and that's the only place right now you can actually get the tequila cask. So no, it's good. It works.
Yeah, no, I can't wait to get up to see you guys. Maybe Liam can let me know the next time you drive, and that could be handy for me as well.
Richard Jones said, "Shoes don't tell anyone." He goes there. I don't know. Dan, they also go to Jonesborough as well to get stuff. They bring it. That's where I get my Redbreast cast strengths from. I don't know how they managed to get them. And then there's another shop in Rathfriland that Wayne Sloan goes to as well. And Rathfriland is probably in the heart of County Down. And, the milestone in it, it's great stuff there too. So there's these wee hidden gems of shops around the country. And KWM Wines in Kilkeel as well. So they're few and far between, but they stock good stuff. You get great scotch there as well.
Yeah, there's nothing better than walking into a place like that and just seeing a whiskey you don't expect to see.
Yeah.
You still get them every now and again around the place. So.
It's a great buzz, isn't it? And long may it last.
Yeah, absolutely.
You just snap it up. sometimes for an absolute steal. Like a lot of people are finding it tough to get that Glenblock 13-year-old at the minute. Every time I walk in the shop, more point, it's there, and I end up buying it. And it's very reasonably priced, you know.
Brilliant.
Yeah, no, it's great fun. But yeah, there you are.
Well, good luck with it, guys. Anyway, loving the takes and keep up the good work.
Good man, Rick. Look forward to seeing you up here.
Cheers.
Christen your cask.
Cool.
Good
Nice
man.
one.
Slán.
Cheers, lads. Sláinte.
Jamie Cotter, what's he at? Jamie Cotter, are you still in the room? Or even Fanula? There's a lot of people working at the minute, and they're pretending they're working. They're drinking and working. So if anybody else wants to chip in, Jamie's in work. Okay. Jamie Cotter, the milestone Nisa is class. Yeah, the milestone is phenomenal. It really is. Alistair, are you working at the minute? Alistair is a barman in Liverpool, so I'm not too sure if you're working, Alistair. I know you've got a bad reception. But if you want to jump in anyway, Alistair came to visit us with Ali Hayes as well, the two of them. One is a good lucky I'm roasted day off. Patrick Duffy, turn off your mic there. I want to hear a bit of crack out of you anyway. Gareth. Is he? Where's he at? Oh no, I can't turn him off. I think he has to turn himself on. Is that right? Anyway, frig it. But sure. We'll just work off these ones. Good man, Jimmy. Jimmy's very hungover. Where were you last night, Jimmy? Were you dancing? That's right, you said you were going out for pints last night. Did you get any of the Peated there? I didn't think you did. Just a little bit of that. Okay, with that. Bettles is a good spot. Bettles is probably the best bar in Belfast for a whiskey. That changes so much once it's breathing. You nearly forgot about it. Good stuff, Helen. What about Helen and Rick? Helen and Rick came down and visited us there as well. For the last while. So, is there a reason? Are people trying to unmute themselves and maybe they can't right now? For example, Jason, how you doing? Jason just got ambushed.
Reckon you can hear me now?
Yeah, I was clicking you on and you were clicking you off at the same time, but yeah. So
well, I didn't, even though I helped set this up. Now did most of the work.
No, it's all right. Just interested in your thoughts.
I didn't think you could turn microphones on.
Sorry?
I didn't think you could turn other people's microphones on because that is dangerous.
No, I can. Yeah, I know. There's only a few. There's only a few I can do it. It's great. Like I ambushed Jarlath, Louise, and Paul Graham. It's great. No, I haven't even ambushed Paul yet. No, I haven't. But yeah. So I think they can turn theirs on, and then I can do it back. But yeah, here, what do you think of that one?
Yes, I sort of like it. I'm not. I know the cask where you got the cask from, and I'm not a fan of their whiskey.
Yeah, there you go.
So yeah, I do like it. I like you say, I like the way the grain comes through.
Yeah, and you have to be honest that it is a blend, and there's a huge grain in there. But there's a lot of blends go out at about 95.5. I think the breakdown should always be in the back of a bottle. It would be great if the Irish whiskey industry took the lead on that and said, even Jameson had to put down their blend, and Powers had to put their blend breakdown on the back of a bottle. Wouldn't it be great? I would drink it. I would enjoy it more, just so because you know what was in it. So it'd be class, you know.
No, absolutely.
But yeah, so we might jump on to our next one here then, which is Jesus. This one's crazy. So you can see behind me right now, guys. Right, everybody. This is our distillery, right? And this is behind Liam's head there. There's three big tanks. The two beside Liam are condensers. They're worm-top condensers. But the one in the middle at the top there is a doubler. Yeah, so it's called a thumper keg or a doubler. So basically it acts as another distillation. So if I was to use two of those rather than the one that you see now, it would equate to a double distillation. And you only need to power one still for it to get through that, and it doesn't take that much more energy. So rather than running two stills, if I ran one still with two doublers or thumpers, it would equate to a double distillation. That's the science behind it, and that's how the Yankees used to do it. Not even the Yankees, the Southern Americans used to do it when they were making moonshine. So the mad moonshiners and the Westerners and also Jamaican rum makers, the guys who moved down to Jamaica and made rum, they usually use two of those, and it's known as doublers. And so a lot of Jamaican rums and Caribbean rums still use that method today, although in a much more rigid, big system. When you use systems like this here, whenever the steam pumps through, that alcohol distillate is pumping through those doublers, they do wobble, and they make a number that they go like bloop, bloop, bloop. They call it a thumper, because it's thumping, 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 and it's shaking about, and it's wobbling around, and can make a bit of a racket, believe it or not. But it works, and it works fine, and there's a huge amount of rectification going on in there. So when we make our rum, which is our next one, not put that whiskey away, the rum goes through that. So we trying to do something different in the true nature of Killowen. We basically want to have as much rum influence as possible. Real bold, very heavy rums, very molasses heavy rums. So there's huge molasses content in our rum, much more than there needs to be. It reduces the yield to an extent because molasses is harder to ferment. Normal sugar is easier to ferment. So we've got molasses in there and with the sugar, so we need to have a nutrient in there as well. So what we do is we add a couple of just cartons of fruit juice. We add a carton of pineapple juice and a carton of tomato puree in with it, and that acts as a nutrient. And the yeast then has something to feed off while it's reacting with the sugars, especially those lesser fermentable sugars that are in the molasses, because molasses is a byproduct of the sugar industry, albeit it used to be a waste product of the sugar industry until they found out they could use it for rum. And right now, it's actually more expensive than sugar, which is complicated as well. So we're making things difficult for ourselves. We're making things more complicated for ourselves, which I suppose is what Killowen does. And just because we want to make these full-bodied rums. So this next drink that you're going to taste, is the rum. So C6. I thought I was losing it there. I thought it was the rum cask. So we're going to open it up here. Now remember, guys, this is full on. This is reduced down to 50% volume, just because we didn't want people to be drinking it at the cask strength, because it's just so full on. It's very molasses heavy as well. The one that you taste is a wee bit better aged than mine. Mine is a bit lighter because basically this rum is put 50%. It's 50% at the minute. So of this is higher. The one we have is a bit higher. So it's like 60s. So it's about 68. We put it into the cask. So the reason why ours is a different colour and lighter is because we use a Solera method. So the one that you had has been aged since Christmas in a heavily charred Cabernet Sauvignon cask. Whereas this one here, we basically put new make into it, and we've taken the heavily charred out and we put it into a PX cask and also little firkins. So we're using that Solera method for our rum, and we don't know how we're going to translate that information onto a bottle yet, but we will. So we think there's going to be a growth in the rum market over the next year. I know I like rum. Lots of people like rum. I know Jonathan Acton loves his rum. They made an amazing rum cask finish whiskey as well. So there seems to be a growing interest in rum. That to me is good crack. That's good crack rum. I don't think there's a rum in the world that tastes more rummy than this. Even I'm a big fan of plantation rum, and although it's full on, it's spirit heavy, and it doesn't have the oils that are in this, and again, open top fermentation. We don't quite have a dunder pit, but we can tell you that the fermentation of this rum wasn't the most pristine. At the minute, there's wasps crawling in and out of our fermentations. So we're in wasp season now, and wasps love sugar, and we've open top fermenters outside, and they're absolutely full of wasps. But it doesn't matter because it's going to be boiled twice for 12 hours each, and it's going to be lying in 70% spirit. So nothing can survive. I know Ian Garrett was complaining he had too much char in his rum sample, and Paul Kane and everybody who was helping out with the bottling was complaining as well that they had too much char. There was a lot of char, so they were actually filtering out their rum samples up in Ecklandville when they were bottling, which is fair enough. Another funny story about this one is that Jarlath was drinking this rum, and he shit himself, and he didn't know how to tell us that we ruined our rum finished whiskey. He thought it was a rum finished whiskey, and it tasted too much like rum. But you're right. It tastes more like rum than rum does. So yeah. So have a drink if you want. I'm really afraid to drink it, even though it's diluted already. It really needs water. Oh. It's just like drinking molasses. It's class. It's absolutely amazing. It definitely needs water.
Here's the water.
Yeah. And that's a 50%. And how full on is that? So this hasn't been double distilled. Because we use a Thumper keg for this, it's been 2.5 times distilled, so to speak. You know? I'm going to move down here on the comments. Sorry, my comments had stopped. Jason making the rum full time. He didn't go blind. Good stuff. Again, like this is full on stuff. But if you were to dilute this down, I think this might be the stuff that we dilute before we bottle it, because it's it's full on. But maybe not. Maybe cast strength rum's good.
What do you put in the cask?
70. And then no, there's two. There's one going in at 70 and one going in less than 70. But it's an old cask. And then we've got these here two big Cabernet Sauvignon casks, and they're 225 litre casks. And Cab Sauv and European Oak. European Oak is very aggressive, tannin heavy stuff, and Cab Sauv's those lovely fruity notes. So whenever you stick rum into those, it's ripping out those European tannins that, if you're sticking in, we know rum because you stick it in the American oak and start ripping out those lovely vanillin heavy compounds that are coming from bourbon casks, and you have that bourbon influence as well from sweet corn. But whenever you stick it in the European oak, you're getting really heavy aggression. So after that, it's going to sit inside quarter casks that are bourbon, and then it's going to be finished in PX. And all the time, the oldest stock is going to be moved down into the bottom and then moved back up into the top. So no matter what the blend is you're taking out, you've always got an old stock in. So the Solera method, it's pretty confusing, but it's good fun. So take a wee read up on how people are making, for example, Solera sherries and even some Solera rums. And it's going to be difficult to put an age statement on it. I think we might not put an age statement on it, but we might just tell people that there's very young stock in it. Or just bloody call it a dark rum.
So you have three cask types. Cabernet Sauvignon.
Cab Sauv, yeah.
Or cask. We could smaller PX cask.
They're not we could. They're 120 litres coming straight from Spain.
Right.
Yeah, so that's the size of put them in Spain. Yeah, so it's pretty good, But we think once you get a PX influence in that as well, it'll really round it off and make it much more palatable and chewy and fun. And hopefully we'll release this then, maybe by Christmas time. We'll release it. It'll be great crack. Paul Graham, excuse your language, feck off, too much char. You're right. Yes, Rob, these are bits of wasps. Bits of real wasps. So, Wayne Sloan, yeah, it's delicious, isn't it? It's crazy. Like a lot of people, like years ago, you would have had, treacle and toast and things like that, and treacle is an important part of the diet, or there was treacle sitting, and you'd mix it with oats or mix it with corn, and you would give it to horses before a race to make them go mad because they get the rushes and the run. you know what I mean, or to fatten them up, fatten up cattle in hard times as well. But it's good stuff. Much better with a drop of water. Yeah, you're right. You're right, Alistair. It definitely is. It's all really good about it. So, where am I now? No, you're right, Patrick. There is amazing sherries down there. Yeah, there definitely is. I'm going to... Guys, if anybody wants to comment, by the way, all you have to do is enable your microphone, and then I can unmute you and have a bit of crack. So if anybody wants to turn off the microphone, I can, just to hear. Because it's always great to interact with people, to see what they have to think, you know. So,
Well, I'll say fair play for getting yesterday at like 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So.
It is, it's full on, isn't it? You're not working.
All calf strength and it's all. No, I've got 3 weeks off, and it's probably just about as well.
Well, to be honest, you deserve it. Fair play to you. Thanks for all your efforts over the COVID crisis.
I know. I'm glad to start with Killowen because, like, my wife doesn't drink whiskey, and she's been continually tapping into samples of Killowen stuff, and
really?
It appeals to her. So she's loving the wee lad who's got his wee small distillery up in the mornings.
It does help, you know. And fix fights with the big guys.
No, fair play. Like, you're bringing a lot of flavors in that are just ridiculous. Like that Pinot one for me tastes absolutely immense. As good as stock double its age, and yeah, love it.
Brilliant. No, thanks very much. I've just diluted this stuff down, and I'm guessing right now it's probably at about 37 or 40%. This rum, and it's more rum than my plantation 70% that I have at home. It's got more flavour on it, which makes me think that a lot of people are speaking with people in the Scotch, for we friends or distilleries in Scotland, and what they do is they mix GNS with the rum and then dilute it back and still release it as rum. But it just shows you what you can do, like what's going on out there. But technically, they're not allowed to call that rum, but they can call it spiced rum. But the amount of flavour that's in that, just by spending a bit more money on molasses, it's a lot more money, unfortunately. But yeah, it extends the flavour, doesn't it, big time? So, Louise, I unmuted you. You're always good at a crack. Are you sitting outside, falling asleep with the birds again?
No, I'm actually sitting outside eating shindigs, drinking whiskey, as per usual, so...
Very good. Shindigs. Oh, right. I should start eating them.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to reenact the whole Whiskey Club Belfast, Duke of York. But no, I have to say, honestly, blown away. I'm always blown away by what you guys do, but just so much interesting flavour profiles, really great development on the palate, just absolutely loving. I mean, I'm really interested to see how the rum does whenever you kind of leave it in the barrels for a little bit longer. I think it's great now, but it'll be interesting to see how it progresses as things go on.
Yeah, well, that's brilliant. Fair play to you. It really will, and I think what we're actually going to be doing now is we're going to increase the Solera method down, and we're going to get. They're on their way from Scotland now. We've got 6 recouped casks coming, and we're going to put liquid into them as well. And basically, they're firkins, so they're only 50-litre casks, the same as the distillery exclusive bottling.
Yeah.
So they're tiny. And plus, we stole Paul's cask and we put rum into it as well. So that's going to enable rapid aging.
Yeah.
And hurry things up a lot more. So we're really looking forward to seeing how that turns out. And I think it's going to be great.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Even at this stage, I mean, it's a fantastic whiskey, but it'll be really interesting to see how it progresses through. And I think there's a lot of potential in that. A lot of potential.
There will be. And then see when we're finished with all of these casks, we can stick whiskey into them and get rum cask finished whiskey. And it doesn't have to be Jamaican rum, it can be Irish rum. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? So it's good fun that way too.
Totally.
But yeah. No, good stuff. Do you know what this would be lovely with? A bit of ice cream or something. Would be great.
Yeah, I can see how those flavours would complement each other. Definitely, yeah.
Would indeed. No, but thanks a million, Louise. I'm going to ask Jarlath what he thinks about this because I know he's a bit of a rum lover. All right. Good stuff.
Hi, Jeremy, can you hear me?
I can indeed. Yeah, loud and clear.
Yeah, I had this about a fortnight ago, and I thought you'd fucked up big time. Excuse my language.
You're worried.
Because I thought this was your second. I thought this was your second rum finished whiskey.
Yeah.
And I thought he went very heavy in the rum with this one. How do you tell when he asked me?
I know. This is happy for rum.
And then Paul recognizes. I says, Paul, Brendan's got his second rum cask all wrong. I was no, don't worry, it's rum. And I thought, right, that makes a lot more sense. That makes a lot more sense.
It's actual rum. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? To me, to me, rum should have those. I love the old rums that have those petrol diesel notes. You know, those really low down notes. It must come from the low wines or come from whatever. And yeah, I mean, I love that one. I have to say, I think as good as the Stout finish is, as good as the Pinot Noir is lovely. The two best things I tasted in your tasting is number 1 and number 6. The stuff you've done yourself. The stuff you're distilling down there yourself. So fair play.
Yeah. Oh, thanks very much, John. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
But that rum, I mean, I'd love you to just leave some of that on for another 4 or 5, 6 years and just see where it goes because I mean, yeah, that's proper. That's proper.
Yeah. It seems it is full on. What was the name of the rum distillery? Was it the South African rum you used for your special release?
That was Port Morant. It was a Port Morant rum, New Guinea. It's a distillery that closed down 45 years ago.
Right.
Which is why those casks were so rare. They had a wooden column still. Not even too sure how that works. Yeah, but that was.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had that rum as well. There's that rum we bought without that rum too, and put it in the box. And it's completely different. It's 41 years old, and all about the wood influence and all. Whereas yours is just all about the spirit. And it's all about those consumers and the stuff that hasn't been distilled out of it.
Yeah.
And that's what really makes that rum so good. The stuff that you've made, it's just what you've left in, what you haven't taken out, what you haven't distilled it too cleanly. You've left in all those base notes, and that's why I think that give that 5 years in wood. I think it's stunning now, but I'd just love to see where it goes.
No, you're right. You're 100% right. It tastes like a lot of new make right now, but yeah, it has to be.
But it's not even new make. I mean, what I mean is, it's the flavours that you didn't distill out of it. You didn't distill it too clean, so you left in those base diesel petrol notes that great rums have, that far too many modern rums, it's just distilled out of.
That's the issue.
So I think it's distilled. I think you distilled that to perfection, So, yeah, brilliant.
Oh, thanks a million. We're thinking of creating a dunder pit now as well. So, I don't know how we're going to do it. We've got a lot of yeast flowing about outside and stuff, so we might just dig a hole and let the yeast run in it and let a few dead animals fall in and create our own Killowen dunder pit. I don't know what occupational health and safety will have to say about that, but there might be new flavours coming in then. Never know. Yeah. No, but you're a gent. Thanks a million for that.
Cheers.
Cheers, Nick. But there's a few other people jumping in here as well. Peter Morris as well. Are you able to, guys, am I able to turn on some of the mics? Because I think some mics are on. But if anybody wants to chirp in, all you have to do is turn on your mic and then you can chat away. We can accept you in, Paul Graham, some dead rat flavours.
Yeah, some dead rat flavours. I turned myself on there. I just have to say, rum is something that I've only recently tried to get into, but so far this is the best one I've had.
It makes you know what rum tastes like. There's
absolutely, yeah.
There, but we're on the wrong side of the Atlantic, I think, especially in Ireland, or Northern Ireland especially, don't have a great selection.
No, most of the rums I've tried have been spiced rums, heavily honeyed or cloves, and they have a completely different flavor profile from this. This is absolutely different from everything I've tried so far. And like John said, given this another couple of years in a barrel, I think would bring out so much flavor.
It will indeed. And we're going to release it early as well, just so people can come on that journey with us. I think it's
for sure. If you release this at Christmas, I would definitely buy myself a bottle.
Yeah,
as a wee Christmas present.
You can imagine the versatility of that spirit as well for cocktail makers, and that it'd be amazing too.
Eddie Cassandra says that making eggnog.
Eggnog, it'd be fantastic. Eggnog, yeah, it'd be great. And just full on rum, and it'd be great stuff. Yeah, but we thought it'd be really important to stick it in there just to show people what we're working on, and let people have a bit of fun with it too. And
remember you telling me about making the rum about 6 months ago. And I haven't forgot about it. I was thinking about it, and then whenever this pack came, I saw the rum in it, and I saw the char, and I thought, fuck, that's Killowen thing through.
Yeah, if you're going to do rum, we thought we want to do rum. You want to do it right, or not do it at all, and we just went to town on the molasses and the stuff. So hopefully we keep that discipline up, and just keep it's easy to use a bit more sugar and a bit less molasses and get more efficient yields and get faster fermentations. But a rum fermentation takes a fortnight, whereas a whiskey fermentation takes a week. You know what I mean? So, minimum 3 days takes a week, but a rum takes a fortnight. That's the truth. So it's harder to keep your eye on the ball in terms of planning your workload ahead and efficient workloads. But, it's easier to make as well. You don't have to mash. You don't have to mash by hand. We all mash by hand with the paddle and the mash tun here. But with this stuff, it's just a matter of mixing up lots of stuff in hot water and then letting it cool down, get infected, and add yeast. So,
well, I suppose it's worth doing. It's worth doing right, isn't it?
Yeah, it is indeed. So it's good fun. It definitely is.
There's no rum GI keeping track of you, is there?
No, there's not. The only difference is rum has to be made from molasses or sugar. So sugar or byproducts of sugar. But spiced rum, you can do anything with spiced rum. You can put any flavouring in. You can mix it with vodka. You can do whatever you want. So a lot of people are putting spiced rum in there. They're sticking green equal spirit into it, which is quite a lot more accessible. And then they put sweeteners and sugars in it, and vanillas and spices, and you can sell it. And basically, they're selling overpriced cocktail, which is fine too, because it's great. Some of them taste better than others.
Yeah, some of them are fine. Like they had one with that caramelized pineapple in it. It was quite nice, but I wouldn't call it a rum so much as a nice base for a cocktail.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
So, Brendan, this is your sort of batch one. Have you done a batch two? Is there going to be a batch two
of the rum?
Yeah, definitely.
This is just taken out of the bottom cask. So the way we're going to do is a slur method, and we're just going to do, as you said, batch one, batch two. We don't know how to put an age statement on this because we want to tell people what's in the bottle, and we can't change our labels all the time. So the slur method is basically it's a method of blending. Slur, whenever you've got 3 casks, say, and you've got the first cask, you put it in as old, and then you move it down into the second cask below, and then fill up some more in the cask above, and then you move it down into one in the second cask, you move into the third cask at the bottom. And see, at the bottom, you take a little bit out and you put it into the stuff at the top.
Yeah.
But before you do that, you put a bit of that into the second one, and put a bit of the second one, then into the third one. So no matter what, there's always the oldest drop of rum that you have is always going to be in circulation in there. So the idea of that, and then whenever you want to bottle your stuff, you're bottling it from the oldest cask. So you've always got aged rum, but at the same time, you've always got old stock in there, no matter how minuscule the amount is, and it could be 80 or 100 years old, is always in there. So some of these old Solera sherries, for example, have the ancient sherry in there, and we're still drinking it today. So that's the idea behind it. So it's the same with rum. So whenever you're doing slurred rum, so we're just trying to keep it rotating. So we don't know what way to call the age statement, but we find that vatting and that aging process is making it much more interesting as we move our way along here.
Have you done more than one distillation of it then?
Sorry?
Have you done more than one distillation of it?
Yeah.
Of the rum?
So this month, we've stopped this month, and the month of July, we are distilling rum. And at Christmas time, we've been distilling rum as well, because it was only myself working. The guys were off. So I didn't bother stopping, so we just done a lot of fermentations of rum. So we're basically trying to mix it all together. So, so that's the idea. So we've got, what you're drinking is basically a 6-month-old,